welcome to the second game of the evening. Up this time is Papertris. Papertris is an interesting and fun arcade puzzle game in which colored cubes dissolve in all 6 possible directions, and you decide where to place your cubes. In addition, there are also power cubes and numerous possible combinations in a classic but modern and lovingly hand-painted game. Papertris is what we call a falling blocks puzzle game. And
not the kind you think it would be.
Yeah. Obviously, this game is seemingly paying tribute to the granddaddy of them all, Tetris, but that is not the game that Petty Fan compared it to. So over to him for the details there.
This game honestly plays more like Columns if you were back in the, Sega Genesis days of old.
Not even the Sega Genesis games of old, because Sega keeps re-releasing Columns at pretty regular intervals.
I mean, fair.
Yeah, it's a game.
I noticed that the block deletion does not work like Tetris at all.
That's because it works like Columns.
Yep.
This is straight up a Columns clone, only they're using papercraft blocks instead of gems.
Yeah. And if not Columns, then say Puyo Puyo. Although
Dr. Mario, Puyo Puyo, whatever.
Yeah. Although Columns is definitely the best comparison because Puyo Puyo has the connection with the Puyos.
Mm-hmm. In their now, to their credit, Papertris sounds better than Paperlums.
Fair.
Yeah. So, is it just the, I guess for lack of a better terminology right now, the Tetris Type A playability, or is there some Type B here?
As far as I can tell, it's only just like you can't even rotate your stack. It's just you can switch the order.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Which is a different kind of malleability, I guess. But yeah, is there a versus mode or a challenge mode or any other mode besides the base?
I believe there is a versus, like local only versus mode.
That's a bit limited, right there. Because
I think you can post your scores to an online leaderboard, but
yeah, but that's not the point of Tetris versus mode. Isn't just the fact that you're playing against another person. It's also the mode that gives you the junk blocks mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and or like the Game Boy Tetris Type B scenario is, there's a whole bunch of blocks already on the field, and you gotta use your pentominoes to clear the board. And
what
it sounds
these,
like this...
what are these non-just color blocks? Just things that clear out?
They're just like different power block type things.
I'm assuming they can function as like the wild. You got a wild card block here.
It's hard to really tell what they do because the markings on them are so small. I can't even really differentiate them.
Fair. I mean, it's kind of feeding into the whole, the paper part of the title here. Because everything is accentuated on graph paper.
Yeah.
Which is quite small.
But yeah, there isn't really a whole lot going on outside of, hey, look, they made a Columns clone.
That's kind of what I've been getting at here. You know, and like I said, you know, we kind of view those things as double-edged swords here.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Like,
I mean,
it's very competent. It's a fairly competent clone of Columns. It's just, if you want to, see any new takes on Columns, you're gonna be looking elsewhere.
yes, I suppose that is true. It's also like Columns. For me, Columns was always a game I played for about 5-10 minutes, and then I'd play something else.
Yeah, I much prefer actual Tetris over Columns personally, but that's just me.
Yeah. Like honestly, I prefer Puyo Puyo over Columns. Because Puyo Puyo has more actual strategy to it than because it's not just verticality. You can connect the Puyos in, various directions.
Well, like, these ones, you can connect them in any way they'll touch.
Right. But it's also the junk blocks are so much more a part of that game's experience than Columns. You know, my point is, like, Columns it's an okay puzzle game, but I never found it all that interesting.
Yeah, there's a
Very
reason
long.
why they're, aping the name off of Tetris and not Columns.
Like, and
Could it be because Tetris is the most famous puzzle game ever?
Probably. At least one of them.
yeah.
Also, shout outs to, chess.
Chess isn't a puzzle game. Chess is a game that they make puzzles out of.
Fair.
Yeah. Chess is a strategy game.
Fair.
Anyway, and I do have to caution a bit of warning about developer intent here. Like, the creators of the game may not have even intended to pay homage to Columns.
Mm-hmm.
They may have independently arrived at something that resembles Columns, but they thought this was their particular spin on the Tetris formula.
Yeah.
Which, once again, which is also Columns, because without Tetris you would not have Columns.
Yeah, we haven't actually talked to the developer of this game, so we would not know, and I don't think we even have an interview lined up for this, so...
Not currently, but sometimes when I send the reviews to people,
interview request follows.
Yes. Now, mind you, I did try to get the publisher of the game, Flint's Arcade, on the show. They are not confident in their English-speaking abilities, which has happened more than once.
Probably won't be the last time.
Yeah, I mean, there are publishers that we work with who can speak, a certain amount of English, but or can type out a certain amount of English. They can write, but maybe not speak, or what have you. There's all sorts of combinations.
What we're trying to get at is English is hard, guys. Not everyone speaks it.
Anyway, so in terms of price, we are covering the Nintendo Switch version, which clocks in at a humble $5, $4.99.
If it had other game modes, or at least online multiplayer, maybe. But honestly, at that price, wait for a sale.
Like, $5 is, not a large amount of money, especially for a puzzle game.
Fair, but also how much can you drop for a re-release of Columns?
True. That would clock in at about the same price. At least it does on, like, say, Steam.
And it's also regularly going on sale for like 75 cents.
Yeah. I definitely agree with you in that I think the most limiting factor here is the lack of modes. Because, once again, even Tetris on the Game Boy had 2 principal modes and multiplayer. Granted, that was more than some computer versions of Tetris, but you'd have to go back to, like, the original version of Tetris that was made in the Soviet Union or something like that to get that slimmed down of an experience of Tetris.
Yeah, it looks like your only modes here are challenge mode, which is clear a certain amount of blocks, and then endless mode, which I hope I don't need to try and explain here on stream.
Yeah.
And then there's versus endless, and versus time trial.
Yeah, so once again, this is fine. It sounds like this is fine for a few minutes, and keep in mind, like, for the Switch, that's probably especially workable.
Oh yeah, like if I had, with this being portable on the Switch, if I had it in my bag, I actually did play some of this while we were on break at a doctor's office. So
yeah, contrast that with, like, Decum, which the first game we covered tonight, which has a parallel limit of modes and accessibility, but that's meant to be a homage to Windows Solitaire. You flip that open for 5 minutes. I think this game has more appeal than that other game. The paper aesthetic is fairly charming, but also fairly reserved.
Yeah. Like, I guess a note for the developers, try and make the icons on the power blocks a little more prominent. I know it's a limitation with this art style, but, like, especially in handheld mode, when I'm straining my eyes to try and see if there's any difference, it's kind of a problem. But again, with this aesthetic, I'm not really sure if there's anything that really can be done with that. So I guess something to think about.
Indeed. Anyway, I think that'll about do it for Papertris here. Be sure to tune in after the break, as the Galax here will be reviewing Animal Lover.